right, top dogs, today we are going to be making our Wayne Thiebaud cakes, and we are going to be using different values to make our cakes look realistic, like we actually have light hitting them on one side, and then the other side is in shadow. So you can see on this side of my cake right here, it looks like there's light coming from the left-hand side, and then over here you can see that there is shadow because there is no light over there. Now you guys are all familiar with light and shadow. I know you've studied it in science, but actually putting in the different colors to help you create different values is something kind of new. Value is the lightness or the darkness of a color. So I have it set up over here. Just gonna walk on over with this printing block ink. And right here, you can see that when the light hits the printing block ink on this side, it is much lighter. Over here, the value is darker because there's no light hitting it. I know you guys get this, but I wanted to show you a real world example. You can also see that there is a shadow cast from the container because the light is going past, and this is blocking our light. So when we do our cakes today, we are going to have somewhat of the same thing, but we're going to make our light areas where the light is hitting yellow, and we are going to make the areas where there is no light hitting, we're going to shade it in with black. So I've drawn my cake. I have gone over it in Sharpie to give it those really defined lines, and now I'm going to use the yellow to come in, and on this side, this is where the most light is hitting. I'm not going to do it in the top layer of the cake because that's flat. But over here, I'm going to use the most yellow, pretty dark. And then, I've got to turn my paper so my hand can go correctly. And then, as it continues across the layer, it gets lighter until almost the middle, when it's almost non-existent. So it's darker. You've got like almost 3 different values, and you want to kind of blend them together. So we're going to do that with each layer of the cake. It is darkest on this, or I'm sorry, the yellow is going to be darkest on this edge because there's more light hitting it. And then it's going to get a little bit lighter because as it goes around, the light goes around the cylinder, the light that hits it becomes less and less until you finally get on this side and there is no light hitting that side. So then I've done my first 2 layers. Now you may think, but you're coloring right over your layers. That's okay. Over the top of this, we are going to paint, and we are going to use watercolors. We're going to create a resist. And with that resist, it's going to end up looking like light and dark areas. So really dark over here, and then lighten, and then lighten some more. Now my bottom layer is bigger. So you want your light to be about the same across each of them here. So I'm going to create my light layer. You don't want scribble scrabbling. In fact, I'm going to go back over the other way. Oop, my bracelet's rattling. Back over the other way. And then some real light yellow right here. Do a little bit more light yellow. Okay, so that has created my light side. Now I'm going to come on and do the same thing with the black on the other side. This is going to create my shadowed area. So I'm going to do it not super duper heavy dark black, but pretty dark black. And then this is going to become lighter fairly quickly until finally it's just like a little wispy gray right there. I'm going to do it on the same side. Remember, I'm not doing it in the top layer here. So I'm going to go down the side first, make that the darkest, and then it becomes lighter. When you make it different levels of light and dark, remember that is called value. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Now there's one more thing we have to do with the black, and that's create shadow. Because the cake will be casting a shadow. So I'm gonna go over. And then finally pretty light right here. Okay, so I have my light area and my dark area. Now this is going to be casting a shadow. My shadow is going to come from the middle and then from behind where you would imagine that middle being. And then we are going to lightly shade that as well on the top layer. This is why we didn't shade the top, because we're creating the shadow from this layer of cake here. Now this one is going exactly like this. So this next one, because the light is coming from the same place, is gonna do the same thing. So it's gonna go from the middle and then from the back, and it's gonna create your shadow. Now your shadows are always a little bit darker where they touch, and actually I need to do that. I'm gonna shade a tiny bit darker where they touch. And then just lightly shade in. And then I've got the shadow on the table as well. So there's my top tier shadow, my middle tier shadow, and finally the shadow. And I want it going at about the same angle as the shadows above it, because the angle of the light isn't changing, so your shadow should be at the same angle. A little bit darker right there where it touches the shadow. And then, sorry, my bracelet's really going crazy. And then we're just gonna lightly shade in. All right. So when I paint over this, the value of the paint is going to be darker because it has the black right here. Let me make this a tiny bit darker, because that's really going to create the effect. Okay, and then over here, it's going to create the illusion of a bright yellow light hitting it. So this is the beginning steps for today.